This may not work.
Yeah.
Feedback everywhere.
Right, because it's the
All right, there we go. Quanda, what's up?
Hey, did you put me on Facebook so I can go and share it on
Yeah,
there?
I'm trying to find you. Where are you at? Let me
My name is spelled after all these years. My
yes,
name is spelled
and I still
Laquanda.
can't get it right.
Wait, if it's on your page, um,
It's on my page, and I'm about
it's
to
currently
share it with you. Can I share
okay.
this?
I don't see it on your page. It's not on there.
This here says I'm live. I'm
It's
looking
not
at it.
live on your Facebook unless you're live in your church.
No, I'm I just clicked the link for. Hold on. Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
they don't show. Oh, hold on. You know, it's not on. It's not on there.
let's see. Maybe you know why? Because it says only me can view this. let's
Okay.
let's let's open this up to the public. There we go.
Right. Okay.
There we go.
So you
Working
did
through
it.
the technical issues, but we gonna get there. Let me see if I can
Right.
just add you in it.
Okay. I'm trying to see if I see you. Okay. Now I see you.
Here we go. And I
Okay.
just
Did you
added you
add
to
me,
it. Yes,
add me in it?
yes. I just added you to it. Put your name on it. You should not.
No, what I'm saying is add me as a part of it, like in the post, tag me in it. Can you do that or no?
I don't think you can do it while you live.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me see. Edit live. No,
Okay. Okay.
it ain't working.
Oh, that's fine. Mm,
Did you see that where I added your name in the comment box?
yes.
Did it pop up?
And yes.
So, folks that's watching, thanks for tuning in. Super excited to. I am rather super excited to serve y'all and get this party started. I'm excited to jump into this conversation with Laquanda. I'm gonna allow her to introduce herself, but just phenomenal. Got a lot of stuff going on. She in everything. She in everything. She an actress. She write plays. She a producer. She a TV host. She do it all. And
Yes.
so,
I try.
so I'm excited to like get into this with her. And so the whole vision behind this is this weekend we hosting this Let's Get Started webinar, and it's kind of like the prerequisite to that, right? Wanted to talk to some folks that's doing some really, really good work, successful in certain areas. And if you're struggling with taking an idea from out of your head to your hands, I want to introduce you to some people who probably struggle with the same thing, but also
Yes.
overcame those struggles, overcame those challenges, and now able to be successful. So this is a strategy session. We're going to throw some stuff out there, get a pen and paper. Let's write some notes down. Let's talk about some stuff. If you got questions, throw it in the chat. Happy to answer them. So Quanda, like talk to everybody who don't know you. Who are you? What aren't you doing? Because you got everything going on. Like what you doing? What you up to?
Well, okay. My name is Laquanda McCoullum. I am the host of a new show called Worth It Empowerment TV, which I am super duper excited about. So, Worth It TV is part of the Worth It Academy. Everything worth and value. A few years ago, I launched my brand, which was I Do to Me. I Do to Me was showing people how to own the women that God created. At the time when I first launched that, I was a wife and mom and that, and I thought I Do to Me at the time was about women making space for themselves and finding time to commit to themselves. But and that's what it was at the time.
Right.
But as life started to unfold, I understood that I Do to Me was not about making space I Do To Me was about knowing who you are and who God created you to be.
Mm.
Once you figure that out, own that space. Out of I Do To Me, birth Worth It and Worth It Academy. Because as I was taking a deep dive into who I was, which takes a lot of time, God had begun to show me that, okay, you're starting to see who you are, but now you don't understand or think you're worthy enough to be who you see. And he allowed me to be able to just really tap into my worth,
Mm.
and in that begin to understand that almost every decision I've made and that I will make will depend on how I value myself. Do I think I'm worthy of the pursuit? And I was like, oh my gosh, worth is at the core of almost
Mm.
everything that we do. And it's from there that all these other things birthed. So,
That's a good place to start because
mhm,
I'm sure there's people that's going to be watching this. That's like, I got 50 million things in my head. I
mhm.
got a ton of ideas, and I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. Like, talk about like I Do To Me and like how that started. Like, where did this idea? We got the concept right, and you've like really explained the meaning behind it. But like, practically, how did this movement start?
Okay. So it started out of frustration.
Mm.
It started out of frustration, um, uh, because honestly, because sometimes in life for me, you get glimpses of who you are and what you're supposed to be doing. And then for me, I wasn't doing them, you know? And so in that, I felt like I was doing everything else for everyone else, not just my family, but friends, church,
Yep.
all these different kinds of things. And the idea of who I was kept coming and being unearthed. And the more it unearthed, and I wasn't doing it, it increased my frustration, right? And so it had gotten to a bottleneck for me. And it was like, wait a minute, I am not being the person who God said I was. And I have to do something about it, because I'm just like losing it. I'm losing my mind.
Yeah. So like, that's a mouthful, and I don't like. I'm like, let's jump down this rabbit hole because some people may think that ideas come out of these like happy-go-lucky experiences, and what you're saying is like, nah, actually, I found my idea was birthed out of my own frustration,
Yeah,
and I took that frustration and packaged it, and from that came this whole entire movement. You gotta like, we can't just leave that alone. You gotta say more about that.
yeah. So I would want to say, this is what I want to say more than anything. This wasn't an idea. It wasn't my idea.
Right.
It was who I was supposed to be, you know? And so that is a differentiator for me, also being at this age and stage of the game. I I don't have any good ideas,
Mm.
right? Everything that I do or will do, especially going forward, is not because it's an idea. It's
Mm.
because this is something that I am supposed to do. And having that time, and one of the things that I did create was a course called Worthless to Worth It. And even in my book, I Do To Me, I have a process called, which I call the Purpose Finder. In that, I had taken a lot of time to identify who I was, and who did God make me. I
Mhm.
did that through a process of identifying, not externally, because so many times we look at external sources for internal validation.
Mm.
And I've done that, and doing that would give you good ideas,
Mm.
right? And I've done that. So at that point, it's like, oh, well, you could do this. Oh, well, you could do this. Oh, well, you could do that. Because a lot of us are multifaceted. We're multi-talented. We're creatives.
Yep.
Where we could honestly do anything, and anything will be a good idea. But is it what we're purposed to do? And so, with that, I went and I looked within. I went on an inward journey of who did God make me? Because a lot of times, even what I found, this is not anybody's truth but mine. What I found is a lot of times in church growing up, they didn't tell us to look at ourselves. They told us to look outward, right? But God made us. So, and he made us and he put us here for a reason, right? So in that, I need to know who he made. I need to know who he made and why he made it. We find purpose and value in everything else. We understand what the tree is here for. The tree is here because of what it produces, and we gather that, right? But for us, we don't look within to figure out what are we producing, what are we, creating. We look externally, we look up, we look outward, but instead of looking, who did God make me?
Yeah.
What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What makes me go? What makes me tick? What do I not like? What am I drawn away by? The good, the bad, and the ugly. So I'm like, all right, well, what am I good at? Because whatever is already in me, that's what I should be doing.
Yeah, that's good.
That's who he made, And so I had to take a look at that and I'm like, okay. And then from there I had to, which was a long journey, I had to start being that person and peeling off the perception of other people so I can be okay with the person that God made.
Yeah, I think everybody should do like a SWOT analysis of themselves.
Yeah.
Like what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? And what are the threats? Right.
Yeah, I do.
Because
Yeah.
that helps you understand, because you're making a really good point, because ideas that are not tied to your purpose, and maybe that's it. It's like purpose is the thing that filters good ideas from the things that you should actually be doing. Right? And so what I hear you saying is like, just because it's in your head don't necessarily mean you need to do it. You only need to be able to do things that are tied to the God-given identity and the God-given purpose for your life. But you got to go through that process. You got to know who you are and be true to who you are. Because when ideas come to your head and you may be like, oh, that's a really good idea. But you're like, I'm not good at that. You know what I mean? Like that's just not tied to who I'm called to be and who I'm created to be. So the idea is good, but it may be a good idea for somebody else. It's just not a good idea for me. Yeah.
Right. But also I feel like that is not what we teach ourselves or our children.
That's good. Yeah.
So one of the things, we have to be groomed in a way to look at who God made. We have to be groomed that way, because otherwise, and I like to say this, we spend our lives living in reverse, meaning we spend all of our lives trying to come back to who he made in the beginning.
Yeah.
And so what I try to tell my daughter when she's on her journey is, what are you already good at? Stop looking at other places. What do you already like to do? We're trying to look at things because it generates a certain level of income or certain amount of prestige or influence or whatever the case may be. And we look in all those different places. We take surveys and all these analysis and all these different kinds of things to try to tell us what we should be. But we never fully embrace the concept of God made me. And this is one of my favorite analogies. I use it in everything that I write. You can check it out on my website at idotome.com, and also check out my show, worthit.tv. But one of the worthit.tv.com, but one of my favorite analogies that I use is that of the orange tree, right? The orange tree is this big, beautiful tree, right? It starts as
somebody said the number 2, right? Is I do the number 2.
The number2me.com. And check out the website altogether. But I do have, if you go to the Worth It Academy page, you'll be able to see a few things there. One of the analogies that I like to use for me, this is my personal analogy, is that of the orange tree. Big, beautiful tree. It starts as a seed, right? Yep. It starts as a seed. However, at the seed, it's going to be a tree. It's already going to be a tree. And the orange tree, it's not looking for somebody else to attach wood to it. It's not looking for somebody to provide sugar for its sweetness. It's not looking for that. It took me a long time to figure out that all this seed has to do is be planted in the right space, under the right environment and the appropriate conditions. It can't grow in cold weather. It has to be in warm weather. And then it needs the sun. It needs God and the right environment. I don't need you to add to me. I need you to nurture. I need to be nurtured.
Come
I
on.
don't need anybody to add anything. If we could, a lot of times, and I talk about this in almost everything. I'm a lot older now, you know, but a lot of times we question who we are. A lot of times the question is, where are we planted? Because if I'm in the right place, in the right environment, under the right conditions, I'll produce. I promise you, I produce. Sometimes the issue isn't with our identity so much as to, I'm in a wrong place because I can't produce. My environment is wrong. I'm not getting enough sun. I'm not getting the right amount of water. And sometimes we need to pay more attention to where we are in life, mentally, physically, environmentally. Where is everything at? What's going on? Because something around me is not allowing me to produce. I feel growth. I feel, I'm about to cry. I feel the springing forth. I feel it, but something is not allowing me to produce. And I need to produce. It's not me, because God made me. My environment needs to be groomed. I either need to move, or I need to change who's planting. I need to change who's watering. I got too much junk in my ground. I got to go in. I got to get this stuff up. You know, I got to be replanted. I may have to be repotted, but whatever I have to do, I need to produce, because at the end of the day, and they talk about it in a parable of the talents. You know, the one that had the one talent, he went and hid his talent, right? Because, and the other people had more, so he was kind of mad at them, mad at the person, because he said, "Look, you're reaping where you haven't sown all the time." Mad because you only got one, right? At the end of the day, the person came and said, "All right, well, I'm going to give your one, since you don't want to do it to the person that got the most." But at the end of the day, also, he told that person, "You going to go where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth." At the end of the day, God is requiring us to produce. So in this stage of the game, for me, that God has given me opportunity, I want to be able to produce what he made me. You know, I don't need anybody else to tell me anything. I've looked inside.
Yeah, you said you don't got to add to me, just nurture me. That's good.
I don't need you to add.
That's good.
Don't add to me. I know what he said now. I didn't before, but I know what he said. And all I need is to be in the right environment. I need to be nurtured. I need to be watered, and I'll produce on my own.
So if you're taking notes, there's two things. There's two words that I will write down that we've kind of discussed in the little time we've been here. One is identity, right? Spend a lot of time talking about like really understanding you. The second word I heard you say that stuck out to me was environment. Right. So like if you're a person, you're like, all right, I want to get started. It's like, okay, before you get started, do you even know who you are?
Yeah.
Before you start and jump out there and do whatever, right? Are you going to be true to yourself? Like, do you know you? That's identity. The second thing, which I thought was drop the mic, we probably get in this session right now, which is environment. Because what I hear you saying is you can know who you are, but having an understanding of who you are, but having that understanding and being in the wrong place is just as dangerous.
It is. It's,
you know what I mean?
Dangerous. Yeah.
And that's where, and to me, that's where frustration gets birthed out, because you know you got so much in you. You know you got so much potential. You know that God is calling you to bigger and better, but it can't come out because you're in the wrong environment. And here's what I want to talk about, because I think it's easy, and you're talking to someone who moved. I literally had to move my family from one state to another, right? Some of y'all know this story. I'm born and raised in Philly, you know, went to school in Delaware, lived there for a little bit, but like Philly's been my home. And when God told me that I had to move my family to North Carolina, I was like, y'all tripping, y'all ain't heard God, you missed it. So you're looking at someone who is a living example of I could not thrive in my God-given purpose until I realized that I needed to relocate. And I think it's easier to say, it's very hard to do. So talk to somebody, because this may be a practical thing. It's like somebody actually you may need to move out of a relationship. You may actually need to relocate geographically. Like there's something about your environment that's off. You might need to like leave some tight friends alone. You know what I mean? Like there's somebody who may be watching this who's like, I hear y'all saying move, but that's not easy for me. So let's speak to that individual. And what advice would you give that person who's struggling with changing their environment?
Right. I would first identify that the environment needs to change and not the soil.
All right, hold on.
Okay. Because this is key. This is really key.
Whoa,
okay?
Whoa, wait, say it one more time. Say it again.
I will first want to identify that the environment needed to change and not the soil.
Yeah, come on.
Okay. Because and I shared this on my show, Worth.TV. The Lord gave me this. He said, relocation doesn't equal transformation. So
hold on, like, you can't drop this stuff. You gotta let people digest it. Like that's a lot. That's a lot to digest. Yeah. Relocation doesn't mean transformation.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that he shared with me, and again I said on the show, Worth.TV, is the story of the prodigal son. Because our soil is damaged if it's toxic, right? Toxicity could happen through a variety of factors, trauma, all those different kinds of things. Yep. But at the end of the day, all those different kind of things, they impact who we are mentally, right? And so a lot of times, because of what we experience, we intoxicate our own soil. And like the prodigal son in that parable, he left the palace. He was already in a palace and he left it. That's the idea of relocating before you check your soil. Yeah. Right. So he left the palace thinking, I'm getting out of here. Okay. He got out of there.
He left.
And he wound up in a pig's pen.
Yep.
With the slop. However, same person, same story. In the slop, transformation occurred.
Yep.
Before he relocated this time. Because when he left before, it was a mess. And that led him to the pig's pen. In the pig's pen, he transformed first and then he left. So we have to make sure. Let me tell you.
That's a lot.
We have to make sure. That we're not leaving spaces prematurely. Yep. We also have to check the stuff around us. Check the environment, check the soil, check ourselves, check it all before we make a decision, because you had already transformed. So God can tell you to move.
Yep.
So what happened for me is I got a divorce, right? And the Lord told me to move. But when I moved, he said, you'll probably be going for 6 months. I'm like, all right, well, why am I moving? That's what he said to me. But I was like, okay. So I purchased my house in Georgia. And then in 6 months, my job told me I had to come back. So I came back. I bought a home in Georgia. Now I'm back in Philadelphia with no home. Okay. I'm paying for a place to stay here. I'm paying for my mortgage. And so thankfully, thank God, somebody has rented my house out for me now. But in Georgia, I moved a different place of worship with nobody, by myself, But it was just, I didn't get it to now. No, nothing against anybody. But I was too consumed with people and what they wanted. He had to shake me up. It had nothing to do with anybody else. But I was willing, without knowing what was going on, to be able to allow him to till, that's the word, to till the soil. He had to till my soil, and this is how he chose to do it, and in that, he it was things that we could say were done by people, but there, because of some of the experiences, my mentality and my soil was toxic. He had to get some of this stuff out of my thinking was off. My thinking was wrong, completely wrong. Some things I can't even put on other people. Some things were wrong because my perception was shifted by what I experienced, and it was the wrong idea. And he had to shake me up so that I can get to a place where I was in close connection with his voice and not anybody else's perception. And that was hard.
So you could produce.
So I can produce.
Yeah. And I think like there's somebody, you may be watching this, and I don't know about y'all, but like this resonates with me. Because one of the things I'm guilty of is also not being patient through process and moving myself out of places out of time. And then as a result, you got to deal with the consequences. The prodigal son is a amazing example of that, of like not trusting the process. It's like, well, I'm planted. Let's stick with the analogy. I'm planted, but it's like, yeah, this what's in you is going to take time. And you got to allow God to do the work that's needed so that what's in you can come out you. And then you like, I'm in this dirt. I'm in this dark place. It's like, I don't feel like there's no movement. There's no nothing. And so as a result, you move yourself, and like you were in the right place. You just weren't patient.
Yeah.
You just didn't allow God to do the work, because at the end of the day, here's what I know, like undoubtedly, is that when you've got a God-given purpose, God is not, he going to equip you with everything that you need to do what he's called you to do. Right. But the equipping part that's the tough part, because in my opinion, it's like God's got to pull out your stuff that ain't got to be in there. He's got to put stuff in you that's supposed to, he got to remake you. He got to retool you. He got to rework your thinking, rework your attitude. And I'm guilty of like saying, all right, well, this need to be done in 3 months. And if I don't see no results in 3 months, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So this, you saying, hold on, before you move yourself out of a place where God actually has you, because sometimes God does have you in uncomfortable situations.
Children of Israel in the wilderness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean it's God. The advice that you gave is more important, which is you got to check the soil.
Yeah. And
if the soil is toxic, then that's an indicator that I'm planted in the wrong place. Lord have mercy. If the soil is toxic, then that's an indication that I gotta move. And that requires boldness. That requires faith. That requires, in my opinion, again, you're talking to somebody who's lived that. And I've done both. I moved out of time, and God had to redirect me. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then, I think the North Carolina move, as hard as that was, and because it wasn't just me moving, it was me moving my wife and my kids, changing jobs and all that stuff. Yeah. That was not an easy process because we were comfortable.
Right, exactly.
We were comfortable. We were good. That's what I kept saying. I'm like, we good. We ain't got to go nowhere. We straight. We got good. We making good money. Like our kids in good schools. We living a life that we want to live, not realizing that God wanted to, you said it, he wanted to produce more out of us.
Yeah.
He wanted to produce more out of us. Yeah. And so it wasn't that, and I think this is something we could speak to, because in my situation, I don't think my soil was toxic. It's just that the soil that I was in had done its job. So it's like, how you got to take a plant and you got to repot it. You just got to repot it. You got to put it in something bigger that can like take care of the capacity that it has. And I think that's what I went through. I just went through a repotting.
Exactly.
Repotting.
Yes, repotting.
So you talked about identity, right? You talked about environment.
Yeah.
Um, you know, you are multifaceted, right? You've written a book, you've written plays,
Hmm.
and then acted in the plays that you've written.
Yeah.
um, so for a person like you that's at a level where it's like, all right, I'm learning how to do multiple things. I don't believe in multitasking. I do believe in, like you said, being a cognizant of what I'm called to do,
Hmm.
and being intentional. It's a good word. Being intentional about the things that I'm called to do. So
Yeah.
talk to the person who's like, all right, I'm started. Like I'm at a place now where I'm like, I'm doing, but I also feel like I don't want my doing to be in vain. I don't want to be overwhelmed by the things that I'm doing. I don't want to be unbalanced in what I do. So what are some of the things that you do to keep yourself balanced with all of the things that you got going on?
Honestly, I created a calculator. It's called Should I Do It? You can go into the Worth It Academy. You can go to worthitacademy.com or go to my website, idotome.com, and click on Worth It Academy to join. And you get the purpose finder and you get the should I do it calculator.
I'm trying to get the
Um,
website on it. There it is. I do to me. Is that where you
yeah,
want people to go?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
cool.
And go to the Worth It Academy page. And once you register there, you get the purpose finder and the should I do it calculator. Everything, honestly, is
Oh, wait,
direct.
wait. Talk about the worth it. Like, should I do a calculator? What the heck is that?
Okay, the should I do it calculator, it allows you, especially the idea junkie, the multifaceted
Yeah,
individual,
yeah.
it allows you to, it's a scoring system, just like a calculator. So it allows you to identify which things you should do first, second, or the ones you should probably pass off to somebody else. So what it does is it allows you to look at yourself. Once you've gone through the purpose finder steps, you look at yourself, what you are purposed to do. Once you've identified your strength, weaknesses, and all those different kinds of things, and the direction that God has given you, and then once you get that, you look at the thing that I want to do. So me, I'm a great host. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
if I
you are. I can
idea,
vouch for that. I can vouch for that.
yes, if watch the show. So if I got an idea, you know what? I want to be a skater. I want to start skating. That sounds amazing. I'll go and use the calculator system. It's 3 points that you got to put it into. If it scores under 5 points and it's closely related, then maybe that's not one you should do. But the 9 or 10 is right there, and it'll tell you which ones line up more closely to your purpose, so that you should follow those out. So it's a great tool.
And is the should I do it calculator.
Is the should I do a calculator? Yes.
So I'm just letting y'all know, if you're asking yourself, should I do it? You probably should go to I Do To Me, or what's the other website? Worth It Academy.
Worth It Academy. But if you go to idotome.com, just click on Worth It Academy.
If I'm you and you're struggling with like, all right, I got 50 million ideas in my head. I want to
Mhm.
start a business. I want to plant a church. I want to start a family. I want to do this. I want to do that. If you got the I wanna, you keep having the I wanna conversation, she got a resource for you that's going to
Mhm.
help you like filter through the junk and really prioritize and help you get to a place to go, should I do this?
Yeah.
Right. And
Mhm.
so idotome.com, go there and just like utilize the resource. It's like, that's one of the things that I don't understand. It's like, it's so many things out here that can help you along the way, but yet people sometimes like, I don't know if we just don't want help or we feel better because we felt like we did it on our own. When it's like,
Yeah. Right.
no, like,
You need
utilize the help that's out there.
help. Yes, you need help. I know I needed help.
Um, if What other advice would you give to, somebody that's young? I'm thinking about like, you know, 20-year-old Harold,
Yeah.
21-year-old Harold, who felt like I knew it. I felt like I knew at that time that what to do, how to do it, when to do it, where to do it. And really it was arrogance, right? That's what it was. It's like straight no
Yeah.
shaker. It just was me being arrogant. And as a result of that, like lost direction, guidance. Right. So talk to the person that's watching this that's young, that thinks they know, but the reality is they really don't have no idea. And it's like, I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get started. I want to jump out here because you said something. I think you commented on the post that we posted earlier this week. It was like something about just jump.
Yeah, sometimes you got to jump and don't look down.
Yeah, which is like that is appropriate. It's like sometimes you got to jump and don't look down. But what about the person who keeps jumping and hurting themselves?
Okay.
Right?
So
Because go ahead.
I would say to them, they don't know who they are. I'm telling you, everything goes back to who you are.
Identity.
Yeah. So if you keep jumping and on different things, you're jumping on different tadpoles, you don't know who you are. Right. And so to them, I would honestly say to the parent, to the person looking over them, I would try to help them identify who they are. What were they good at as a child? What did you see them being good at? You know what I mean? What were they naturally drawn to? What were the natural things that they were drawn to? And because over time, things become more clear. So I found this thing the other day. My daughter was 12 and she wrote, I'm good at doing makeup. It was one of her school things. At that time, she wasn't even wearing makeup. Wasn't wearing makeup at all. She's grown to have an affinity or love for it. So I'm like, all right, that's a place that we can point you in the direction of while we're trying to dig inside of you to figure out what's in there, not outside. Not because it makes a lot of money, not because it'll make you rich and famous, but let's dig inside of you, right? All right. So at that time, you said you're like, okay, so let's give that a go. You know what I mean? Not all these other things and other influence. I would rather them look inside, and us as parents keep looking inside of our children because God already made them what they are, and keep digging for that in them and not outside of them. So to the parent, I would say that to the child who doesn't have a parent to help guide and to direct them inward, I would say, look within. I would say, look within. Get the Purpose Finder tool if you want from my website, Edwards Academy, or conversations like this, or the strategy session that you have posted up. Ultimately,
Yeah, I think the big advice you is like get a mentor. If you don't have nobody like a parent that's helping you, that's like you said, digging inside of you to help you find out what's inside of you, you got to go find somebody who can. You got to get a mentor.
I would get a mentor who's going to challenge me to look within and who's going to hear from God about who I am and who he made me. Because we can go in a lot of directions about that too, because but I do believe that also my grandmother used to say this all the time. People used to tell me a whole lot of things growing up, right? They said people used to tell me I would record my own albums. I knew God didn't call me to that. God didn't call me to be but people will say anything, not say anything, and maybe they mean well, but we have to get a mentor once we understand and we can look within and see all those kinds of things, because we need to understand and know God for ourselves too.
I agree.
So have an ear open and a good God lead me to the right mentor. All that. But that's another conversation, another sidebar. I've been led astray a lot in life. So I have an affinity and I have a connection with wanting people to be connected with the voice of God for themselves so that they be who God wants them to be and not what other people want them to be. So that's all. That's where that passion.
I think you're right. I think like you've got to have the right mentor who is godly equipped to cultivate what God has placed inside of you.
Exactly. That's
you know what I mean?
That's it.
Not somebody who can just speak to who you are or who they think that God is calling. No. Like, you need, let's just stick with the agriculture analogy because I think it's really good. It's like you need somebody that understands your seed, you as a seed. You know what I mean? The soil that you're in. You know what I mean? Like you need somebody who's been planted where you've been planted and has produced in what you've been planted in. You know what I mean? Like people who have been godly equipped to cultivate the God-given purpose inside you. I believe in that. Let me ask you this question. Go ahead. Sorry, you was about to say something. Go ahead.
I don't want to take you off your thought.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay,
I ain't
for
gonna
me,
lose it.
okay, and especially I would want to say I would suggest a mentor who has the kingdom in mind and not the church building in mind, because
Mm-hmm.
the kingdom is so expansive, and a lot of times, you know, I'm sorry, people, but
No, go ahead. Come on, go ahead. It's
a
all
lot
right.
of times people will shape you according to how you fit inside a building,
Mm-hmm.
and God is so expansive. Some people are called to just, be in the building, so I
Yeah.
can't negate that. But some of us are not called to be in the building, So I will want a mentor who is kingdom minded and not culture minded.
Yeah, and I'm saying this as a pastor, right?
Hmm.
But even my thought process is still filtered through outreach, because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, that's just who I am. So like
Hmm.
I've never subscribed to, even as a person who is called to the church and a church planter, right? Started a church.
You're
I've
right.
never subscribed to the notion of just like, oh, we got to stay in here, because that's how the church becomes cultish.
Yes.
And that's how it moves into like very, very dangerous religious territories that messes a lot of people up. We can walk, this is going to take us down a whole nother rabbit hole where,
Yeah, and we don't have to
Ephesians
go
4 is like,
there.
I'm called here, but I'm also equipped to go out there. You know
Yes,
what I mean? So like you
you
can
are.
still
You
be in
always live out outwardly.
marketplace and marketplace and still be in ministry, right?
Yes,
You can
absolutely,
still,
absolutely.
be a clinician, be a business person, an educator, an actress, and like you can still do all of these things in the
All these
marketplace
things.
and still be in
Because
ministry.
I go to church every week, so
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
So here's the question I was going to ask you. Like there's this
Yes,
notion of like, I'm going back to the jump thing. It's like sometimes you
that's fine.
just got to jump and fall and hurt yourself,
Hmm.
and allow those failures and those bumps and bruises to kind of be lessons and teach you along the way. Like, what's your thought process on that?
Step on the water, Peter. That's my thought process.
Right.
Get on the water. So that's my thought process now more than ever. Before, again, back when I didn't know and I was kind of unsure about what God wanted, I was scared to do what He said, you know, and it's like, how Jesus got frustrated with the disciples. How long do I gotta be with you for you to understand? Oh, ye of little faith, do you not know that you can say to this mountain? It's like, all right, you don't know you don't trust God, what's going on here. And my thing is this, and one of my wise friends once said, at least Peter fell on the water. He was out there, you know, he was out there. He was obeying. He got the word to get on out there.
Yep.
And he went out there and the Lord picked him up. So I would say go. If the Lord say go, go.
Here's the interesting thing about the Peter story, and like, and we also like, I want to shape this because not everyone may understand scripture, and everybody that's watching this may not read the Bible,
Okay.
right? So it's
True.
like there's a
True.
story in scripture where like, the disciples on this storm, paraphrasing, and they see this image on the water, and they like, who is this? This is a ghost, and
Mm-hmm.
and Peter's like, Lord, if it's you, tell me to come. And it is Jesus on the water, and Jesus says, come, and Peter walks on the water. And the part that you're bringing up is interesting, which is like he does. The Bible says he looks at the winds and the waves and he begins to drown, and that happens. Sometimes we
Yeah.
look at the things that are like, that's intimidating. This is scary. I ain't never been out here before. Oh my God, I'm walking
Yeah.
on water. What the heck am I doing? Like, and you get
Uh-huh.
intimidated by that process and you drown. Here's the revelation that I got in that story, and this is, I think, will be helpful for somebody, because the Bible
Yeah.
says that they got back in the boat, and I'm
Yeah.
always asking myself, how did they get back in the boat?
You get back in the boat. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like Jesus didn't
That's
jump in the water and they swam back. He's like, no, he picks Peter out of the water and they walk back. they walk on the water together back to the boat.
The boat.
Right. And so, like, for the person who's scared to do what God has called them to do, or you're in a place where you feel like I'm drowning, that's real. We've all been there. The great thing I think about this story is like not to, like, I don't want churchify it, but like, let's just take it there. Like, Christ is the one who picks us up. And the crazy thing about it is like, he gives you the ability to walk on the water again.
So,
you know what I mean?
He does.
Like, he gives you the ability to do it again and do it better this time and do it efficient this time and do it with him this time. And now it's like, what you walked on it, you drowned in it. All right, well, get up out this thing and walk on it again. Like, let's go.
Yeah, because he that begun a good work in us will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. So it's going to keep coming.
Yeah. And storms going to keep coming.
And storms they're going to constantly arise.
Yeah.
But he equipped us for whatever it is. He uses everything to work for our good.
So if you're watching this and you're like, I'm scared to start, the first thing that you said I thought was interesting which is like, you can't be scared to do what God has called you to do. So like, if God told you to get out the boat, if God told you to start it.
Yeah.
Do it. And there are going to be times where you get off track. It's going to be times where you look back and be like, holy moly, how did I get here? How am I drowning in this? Why do I feel overwhelmed? Like, why aren't people supporting me? This is not going the way I thought. Like, it's a part of it.
Right.
But you also got to know that you've got a helper, that you've got to.
And you have to learn along the way.
Yeah.
And so the lessons come to help us learn along the way, because we don't start out knowing everything. And just because we falter or fail, if God said it, we lost the round. We didn't lose the battle, and so we learn and we keep going. We keep learning and we keep going along the way. Is a quote that says somebody's overnight success took 15 years, And so when we look at those different people, they just kept going back to perfecting the recipe.
Yeah, that's good. That's real good.
KFC, what he said, he tried thousands of people, but it doesn't mean it wasn't supposed to be KFC.
Yeah, or like the famous Michael Jordan quote is like, you miss 100% of shots that you don't take.
Right. Yeah. And so if you're supposed to do it, that is very challenging. It's very challenging. And I talked about this honestly in my book. I got so accustomed to failing, falling, that became a part of the process. But it's the getting up part that is sometimes hard for people. That getting up, I got to get up again. I got to face these people. They're going to say I'm a fraud. I got to do all this kind of stuff again. But if you're called to it, if God, he's going to, let me tell you something. I will say this, you'll keep being called. The call is not going to shut up. So if you don't do it, the call is going to be there because it's etched in your DNA. When he made you for that purpose. That purpose does not shut up. It keeps calling. It keeps calling. If you're failing, this is how some people say they got hooked on drugs and God met them in the drug house, because God doesn't stop calling.
That's good.
No matter where we are, he's going to keep calling. And you know what? It's either you're going to get frustrated and the call is going to drive you crazy until you heed to it. We got to keep going.
Yeah, that's good. You were saying I had this thought and I was like, I got caught up in what you were saying. So I'm back on like trying to loot my weight loss journey, right? And so it's a little different this time because this time is not. This time God is in it. You know what I mean? Like this time God is in it, and this has become like a spiritual thing for me now. So like I'm running 3 miles every morning, and I ran today, and I sat on my porch, and what the Lord was telling me was that by being constant, that's what he said to me. When you being constant causes you to become consistent, and becoming consistent causes you to build commitment. That's what he said. Right. So like, you just got to keep doing it. And out of you just being constant, just doing it, then that's what builds the consistency. And then
Yeah.
once you become consistent, consistence how you build commitment. And I think a lot of people don't understand that process. They just look at
Yeah.
the things that you've done, or they may look at other people and they go like, man, they just massively committed. It's like, man, you don't understand my journey. You don't understand how many times I had to go through the me process.
I gotta go back because those people really believe in themselves. They know who they are. I mean, we can look at if we want to look at beyond the people in the world.
Right.
I'm going to say this because the people in the world, they believe in themselves, right? And they will stop at nothing because they believe in themselves. And as believers, we don't.
Mm.
We don't do it. We don't believe in ourselves. A lot of times, I can't say everybody,
Yeah, that's
PC.
yeah.
Right.
I think the part you said is like you just gotta go back to saying I do to me.
Yeah, you do. You really have to really appreciate the person who God made. Somebody's asking about the website idotome.com. Select on the Worth It Academy on Facebook.
I
Thank
could
you.
pop that up there. Let me see. I'm Mr. Holy Moses. Let's chats everywhere.
Yeah, but I will say this, and so those people believe in themselves. They believe in themselves so much so, and it's like the world adopts the biblical principles, and they work. The principles work, but we don't. We're afraid. We're like the person with the one talent. We hide. We hide it in the dirt. And then when a person comes, we wonder why they got more because he took our little one that we was afraid of. We were afraid to use, and he gave it to the one that had more, which could be somebody out there.
You know what? Like whether you got this is the principle with that parable. You know, one got 5, one got 2, one got 1, but they all got 100%.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and the Bible says
Mhm.
that the beggar gives it to them based on their capacity. So God's it's not you didn't get one because you didn't deserve more. You got one because that's what you can handle.
That you can handle.
That's
Right.
what you can handle. And so the one who had 5 got used it 100% return. You know, the one
Double
who
it.
had
Yeah.
2 100%. So it's not necessarily how much you had. It's like, won't
What
you just handle what you have?
what you have. Right.
So good.
You can right. It's so much in that, but I don't want to go off on a tangent.
Yeah.
It's so much
Well,
in
and
it.
we got 5 minutes left. So I wanted to give you time to talk about, invite people into your space and in your world. I know you've given the websites. I'm gonna put it back up on the screen. The I Do to
Mhm.
Me. Where can people find your book? Talk about like where can people get involved in this Worth It Academy? Like let people know how they can get connected to what you got going on.
So you can go to idotome.com. Thank you all for joining tonight too. You can go to idotome.com. And on the website, it has everything. So you'll be able to click a tab for the Worth It Academy. You'll be able to click a tab or for the Worth It TV show, how to watch it, where to download it, all those different kinds of things. The book is relaunching. So we'll relaunch the book in July. So I've added a little more to it as the Lord has matured me. And even though what he gave was really good when I go back over it, but he's also added. And so it does include some other things as well. So I'm excited about that. But yes, go to idotome.com. Every way that you can connect to anything is already on there.
Facebook, all your social media platforms, all that stuff.
Everything is already on
Yeah.
there, but yes. And yeah, so that's how you connect with me.
Final words for you. What's 30 seconds. What's your there we go. What's your final word to folks that are watching?
My final word to folks that are watching would be when it comes to pursuing your purpose, I would firstly, and I want to say I have an affinity for the late bloomer. Meaning, so that's
That
who
sounds like
I
another
have
book. It sounds like another book.
right. I really do. So I would say to all of us late bloomers who are out there living in reverse, meaning we're going back, we're journeying back. We've had all these experiences, and all these experiences has left us in a place where it's like, oh my God, where am I? Who am I? It's time for me to wake up, and now you're journeying backward to who God made in the beginning anyway. To you, I would say take some time and get to and spend with you without any noise. You got to kill the idea of the perception of people. Every time you think about, it's hard. Every time you think about, I can't do this because what are they going to think? What are they going to say? You hold that on the altar. That's what you pray for. A lot of times we're praying for people and we're praying that they stop doing this and that. No, 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 no. We have to pray for ourselves because at the end of the day, we got to produce, we got to stand before our Father. The bridegroom is going to come for us. And we have to pray for ourselves that we have the ability and the mental stamina to sit with ourselves and to be okay with God and what God is saying. I can't even say it loud enough because we have to be okay with God. We got to meet our maker. And sometimes most times we put the voices of people over our creator. And he doesn't want that, not in this hour, not in this season. Get connected with your creator. Find out what your creator is saying, because when he calls you, we don't want him to say, depart from me. I never knew you, because you knew people. You knew what people wanted, but you didn't know him. So while you're in pursuit of your purpose, get inside of you and know you and God. He made you. Get to know you and take this person back to God and get to know that person. My grandmother's mantra, which speaks volumes to me daily, is you got to know him for yourself. I live by that now. I didn't know it then, but I live by that now. That is a guiding principle for my life. You got to know him for yourself. And so I would leave you with that. Get to know God for yourself so that he can lead you. Be okay with what he's saying. Don't be the victim, because that's an easy place to be. But when you feel like you can't hear because all you hear so loudly is what people have said, then you need to pray for yourself. You got to pray for you, that you are okay with listening to your creator.
And I'll just sum it and say, why all that's important is because you're worth it.
Yes.
You're worth it. Like you owe yourself that out of all the things that you've gone through, everything that you've experienced, all that you've done for others, like you are worth it. You owe it to yourself.
You're worth it.
You owe it to yourself.
Yeah.
This was good. I hope y'all enjoyed the conversation. Q, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I said at the top of this, and shout out to y'all that's been kind of hanging out for this past hour. I know folks kind of been jumping in and out. This is going to stay on the various social media platforms. So you can go back and watch it if it's helpful for you. This is the prerequisite to our gathering this weekend. I'm hosting what we're calling the Let's Get Started webinar Sunday, April the 30th, this coming Sunday at 6 p.m. And so it's in the vein that we were talking about today. Like, it's just time to stop talking about it. Stop walking in fear. Stop being scared. And we're going to share with you some practical strategies to help you take what's in your head and move it to your hands. You still got time to register. All you got to do is text the word "get started," the phrase rather. Text the phrase "get started" to the number that's on the screen, 336-438-8889. It's not going to cost you anything. It's just going to cost you time. You just got to make the investment of time. So, Q, again, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for the time. Y'all have an amazing night. Be well. Bye.